Good day and welcome everyone to Knowledge 20. We are excited you could join us today for this breakout session called Going Mobile, Putting the Power of ServiceNow into the Palm of Your Hand. Have any of you wondered what it might take to get these apps out to your users and your employees? Well, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about how Accenture enabled our on-the-go employee workforce, some of the challenges that we had getting them into our ecosystem, and some of the lessons learned along the way. Some of them you may be able to use as you deploy mobile into your own organization. My name is Ryan Harville. I am a delivery lead for Accenture CIO ServiceNow program, part of our larger IT or support organization. And I've brought Brian with me today.
Hi, and I'm Brian Withman. I'm an associate manager with Accenture, and for this mobile project, I'm the development lead. And let me toss it back to Ryan to get things going.
Thanks, Brian. Let's jump right in then. So, as many of you know, Accenture is an extremely large and complex company. We have over 500,000 employees in 50 countries with one of the largest installations of ServiceNow. Mobile is part of our strategy to digitally enable all of that large workforce. You can see in this diagram, it's layered across services and channels and personas, but the employee is always at the center. Our ecosystem, not unlike many others, has traditional channels like websites and portals, but we are quickly entering into the arena of bots and assistants, virtual assistants, and of course, mobile. All of these channels are a conduit for the services that we provide in our corporate environment. Mobile has become a significant and obvious means of interaction with almost half of our company collaborating at some point on their mobile device. In fact, everyone grab their phone right now and look to see if you have company apps on your phone. I would venture that if we took a poll of everyone here today, you would find a lot of us are already using company apps on our devices, and Accenture is really no exception. So as we started to explore the mobile opportunities with our ServiceNow platform, we really saw two different areas. So first we looked at our employee base. Remember those 500,000 employees? Well, 75% of them, nearly 300,000, visit our support portal every month. In recent shift to work from home with COVID-19, we've seen that hit as high as 400,000. And all of those visits generate around 450,000 requests each month. Now consider as well the mobile component. Half of our population has either a registered device or applications already on their phone. So you have notable traffic on your portal. We have highly mobile enabled population. And so we see this clear need to provide employees with Now Mobile, introducing this new channel to check status of tickets or create a new ticket or manage their approvals. So then the next area we looked at was around ITSM fulfillers. We thought that's probably the next audience. So we started to work that out and we talked amongst our other businesses, but an emerging stronger business case was actually around asset management. So we had recently enabled 700 fulfillers who are managing over 54 million IT hardware and workplace assets on the ITAM solution, the end-to-end asset process with financial records. But the full solution was missing some mobile specific or mobile enabled processes. So we recognized that the mobile apps could enable asset receiving. We could provide up to on-the-go updates and increase efficiency really around compliance activities like audit and inventory. So this became our strong case to implement mobile agent for our asset fulfillers. So with these two clear use cases, we set out to deploy both Now Mobile and Mobile Agent. And you can see in FY20, we released both. We have plans to enhance and continue adding functionality, including those IT fulfillers on the mobile agent. And as always at Accenture, we like to push the boundaries a little bit and innovate. And we have plans to extend the mobile reach into some new business areas, really focusing on these micro experiences that add employee efficiency with the mobile apps. So let's get into some of the actual build of these apps. Our ServiceNow environment is really complex. We've been building on it for over 4 years. So starting this journey into mobile presented a variety of challenges for us, and we had to make some key decisions. So we're going to talk a few minutes about each of those challenges and the decided course of action. The first, obviously, is which apps to deploy, right? You heard for us, we had a use case for both, Now Mobile for our employees and Mobile Agent for fulfillers. In your own organization, consider a couple things: the maturity of your platform, your audience. You might ask if there's employee appetite for mobile apps already. If you're guided by a user experience strategy, so whether that's a focus on employees as requesters or on your support help desk teams, you know, both of these use cases have a different target audience. So tailor your deployment to address each of those different targets. For us, it was both fulfillers and requesters. So the next decision was around branding. So ServiceNow publishes the out-of-box apps directly to the Apple and Google stores for iOS and Android. It's super easy. For Accenture, we have a really strong internal and external brand identity. Internally across our platform, we've actually rebranded ServiceNow Support Portal and the Fulfill website, applying our own design and color and user experience components. And we've even gone as far as renaming them, those sites, to steer away from the ServiceNow names and labels. So we made an early decision to continue that branding strategy and deploy our apps with the same naming convention and visualization. So ServiceNow's white labeling option allows you to repackage the out-of-box apps, apply your own color, logo, other design elements, and here you can see the example of our Accenture-specific created apps. And the white label versions have an obvious advantage. They are employee brand recognition, right? A level of confidence with the product. We'll talk about a few of the disadvantages of white label a little bit later in the session. You know, on the flip side, the out-of-box apps, you can realize benefits really quickly without having to go through distribution, but there is no branding that's specific to your company. So with that, I'm going to pass the ball over to Brian, and he's going to talk about a few other decisions that we've made.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm going to talk about the next 2 key decisions: mobilization and rollout. Mobilization. In this context, think in terms of preparing the development team for the project. We knew 3 things prior to starting our mobile project. 1, our team didn't have any prior mobile development experience. 2, we knew that building mobile apps was going to be a little different than building the desktop apps we were used to. And 3, we knew we had a lot of work to do to get ready to take on this new development opportunity. To build a solid foundation, we directed our team over to developer.servicenow.com and asked everyone to go through the mobile application course material coinciding with our New York upgrade. We also encouraged the same training for our post-release support team members as well. While similar to our desktop applications, we did confirm that mobile was a little different. There were a lot of new objects, new relationships, and new terminology that we needed to learn to effectively work together. Then, to build on that foundation, each team member was asked to create their own mobile app based on the training materials. Once complete, as a team, we all shared our work with each other for additional learning and feedback. The last thing we did to help mobilize the team was complete an on-site workshop with our ServiceNow mobile project partners. It was a great 3-day working session, and by the end of it, we had created a few of the applets that would be part of the final products. The next key decision that I'll discuss deals with the rollout. For the rollout, it was our intention to go with a big bang style rollout. We planned to complete the project build, push our code into production, place our apps in the company portal, market the new channel, and then just sit back and watch the magic. But as with so many things in life, it didn't happen as we intended. We dealt with challenges that made the big bang style rollout difficult. There were challenges with project scope and competing priorities. We needed to spend extra time with our ServiceNow partners to get mobile analytics set up ahead of the Orlando release. And there were challenges setting up app security, which Ryan will talk about when we get to the security key decisions. All the challenges I just mentioned forced us to rethink our approach, and we decided to stage the deployment instead, which actually became an advantage for us. Stage 1 was finishing the build and pushing code into production. Stage 2, which followed a week later, was pushing the new white label apps into the company portal, marketing the new channel, and finally, watching the magic happen. The advantage to this approach was it gave us a preview of our finished products in the production environment before our users got a hold of it. We also had time to make adjustments to the company portal security settings and finalize the marketing materials and users guides to be available when the first users would download the new apps. Now let me turn the presentation back over to Ryan to continue discussing key security decisions.
Thanks, Brian. Let's talk about security for a minute. This is one of our most challenging areas, and I want to talk through kind of the key points along the way. So earlier we talked about the decision to white label. We really wanted that custom look and feel for our employees, and that meant that we had to distribute the apps ourselves. People wouldn't go to the public store to download. We would distribute via Microsoft Intune. Also remember that Accenture is primarily a BYOD, or bring your own device organization. So our employees have their own device, and naturally they want to maintain the control over the device and their personal data. But because it's via BYOD, Accenture requires a level of security. And that means traditionally you would apply managed device security, or MDM. What that means is that in order to provide access to our Accenture apps on a personal device, the company would apply a security layer over the entire device, not just the app. So this is an obvious and notable blocker for employee participation. I mean, people don't want the company managing their device or their phone, and I admit I didn't really want that either. So the challenge was, and the decision became, how do we apply security to these apps? We want to balance user adoption with the required company security, and it's still within this BYOD environment. So the alternative to MDM is MAM, or MAM, Mobile Application Management. It's similar, but equally robust level of security, putting control over your company data, but separating it from the personal data. And security layer over the app itself, not the entire device. So this begins to break down those barriers of adoption, and it's really where Accenture is headed. However, and this is where it starts to get a little confusing, for iOS, the combination of the white label app plus the MAM security layer presented this new distribution challenge, especially for someone of our size. Apple's MAM distribution process is a bit more rigid and requires a level of management that we just really weren't prepared for. So in the end, we chose kind of a combination of MDM and MAM, just applied differently to each build. And it sounds a little bit complicated, but it is working. We are still working with ServiceNow, Apple, and Microsoft to understand other options for distribution. Like I said, Accenture is definitely moving toward a MAM strategy for all its mobile apps. My advice here would be, if you're considering introducing mobile apps into your environment, engage your security team, data privacy and InfoSec, engage them early, and talk about your environment. Everyone's a little bit different. There are unexpected challenges that will always come up, and you're going to need to spend some time making decisions on how to deploy and apply that security layer. So now I'm going to pass back over to Brian.
Let's take a peek at the finished products. While not an in-depth rundown of everything that we built, here are a few samples from the two final Accenture branded white label apps, Accenture Support and Accenture Support Fulfillment. Support is our branded version of Now Mobile. This is our mobile extension of the support portal designed as an option for users to get support when they're away from their desk. This first release provides the ability to create incidents, ask HR questions, manage open and closed cases, and approvals. This app also allows users to interact with Accenture walk-up location, tech lounge locations if they require in-person assistance at an Accenture location. Fulfillment is our branded version of Mobile Agent. This app is designed for the fulfiller user who needs to perform fulfiller activities while away from their desk. For this first release, we have enabled asset management. Asset management allows asset fulfillers to perform pre- and post-movement scanning, asset lookup, and deployment of assets. This app was designed to help Accenture address regulatory compliance issues and help facilitate asset process improvements. Now that we've briefly seen and talked about the finished products, let's move on to some of the challenges. Hopefully the challenges we encountered will provide ideas to help you maximize your own mobile development project. The first slide will illustrate the challenges with working within the designs of the mobile interface. As we were building our apps, we thought about what we had learned from our mobilization process and where we were headed in our build, and an analogy began to surface. We thought of our mobile project as moving from a mansion to a tiny house. And if you're not familiar with the concept of tiny house, it's a social movement towards simplifying life and living within a very small footprint. For our analogy, the mansion is your support portal, and it has everything you need. It addresses all of your business processes, your corner cases, and does it all with the bells and whistles you'd expect from a great portal experience. Now, for a great mobile extension of the support portal, we need to think of things a little different. This is the tiny house part of the analogy. When we leave the comfort of the mansion and start spending time in the tiny house, we need the tiny house to be just as useful to us, but focused on mobile-friendly micro experiences. So what challenges did we address to accomplish this? Too much scrolling. In order to help our users have a positive mobile experience, we grouped related applets into UI sections and displayed or hid those sections based on role. We used horizontal and vertical section layouts to provide visual separation of the functionality and to make the screen more interesting to look at. And lastly, we place highly used applets at the top of the page and lesser used applets towards the bottom. Long naming convention. You may also think of this bullet as preventing truncation labels in the display. There were three areas where truncation was a concern. First, on applet headers. While long descriptive applet names were great for developers, the applet headers became truncated, which caused confusion for our users. So we opted to shorten long applet names and use the business's terminology. The second area was user actions. We tried to restrict action names to just one or two short words to prevent crowding of form footer buttons and list swipe actions. When we needed a more descriptive action name, we opted for a top menu location where we could utilize more of the screen width. The last area that we addressed the issue of truncation was in the applet's item and header views. Since we couldn't just shorten the data that was being returned to these objects, we opted to make small adjustments like reducing the font size and moving fields around to display as much content as possible. And the last challenge working within the design of the mobile interface is fields and forms. In our experience, we only got 7 or 8 fields to display on the form before they fell off the end of the screen. So we encourage you to make those fields count. You should consider only bringing fields you need to support filtering of the result set and support the action or actions that the applet is designed to accomplish. If you find yourself placing 20 or more fields on the form, you may want to stop and consider how to make your form simpler and more mobile friendly. As with any build, you're going to experience technical challenges, especially when the technology is emerging Or maybe, like it was for us, it's your first experience with a mobile development project. Here are just a few of the challenges that we encountered during our build and how we approach them. Record producers. First, let me just say I'm very impressed with what portal developers can do. It's a skill set I wish I was better at. Accenture's portal team designed an extremely robust record producer for creating incidents. However, we discovered through our mobile testing that it didn't work for us when we pointed our create incident applet at it. We found dependencies handled by catalog client scripts caused unexpected behavior on mobile. After consulting with our ServiceNow mobile partners, our options were either redesign the existing record producer or create a new, more mobile-friendly version. Due to deadlines and priorities, our approach was to create a simplified version of the record producer without the use of catalog client scripts, which leads to my next point. Client-side scripting not supported. We saw a similar challenge with our applet's add and edit actions. We all know client scripting is an effective way of handling a lot of requirements. But since we don't really have that luxury in mobile, our approach was to step back and look at the process and only focus on what needed to be accomplished for that specific mobile transaction. So as you develop for mobile, keep in mind, if the functionality that you're trying to place on mobile is complicated, you may have to take a step back, simplify it first before you can move forward. And that brings me to low code, no code. This is not a large topic, but it is worth mentioning. As we worked on release 1, our approach was always to start with low code, no code, and opt for scripting only when needed. We did end up using some scripting to support our more complicated requirements on the build. Persisting data from applet to applet. For asset management, we built a 3-tiered applet navigation and ran into scenarios where we needed data to be passed from applet to applet. Our ServiceNow mobile partners helped us with our approach and instructed us to use carried parameters. Carried parameters allowed us to take data from one applet and use that data in our destination applets. While I believe this could be a 20-minute discussion on its own, I'm only going to mention 2 topics here: impersonation and mobile devices. One of the biggest challenges we had for testing was not having the ability to impersonate users on the device. To combat this, we created local accounts for testing the functionality and used network accounts for testing authentication into the devices. I will say it can be time-consuming to log in and out of the devices, but you can test mobile without impersonation. And the last topic is the mobile devices themselves. Here you'll have to think about your own environment. Will you use physical devices, device simulators, or a combination of both? Will you supply developers and testers with physical devices, or is your organization bring your own device only? Will people be okay with managed device? And are they willing to download company apps? And does the team have a good mix of device types and operating systems? We use ServiceNow's supported device list to help guide our testing strategy. And ultimately, we went with a combination of personally owned MDM or MAM secured devices and device emulators. Now, I've been talking a lot about different types of challenges and how we approach them, and I could probably talk about it much more, but let's keep things moving, and I'll pass back to Ryan to continue talking about business impacts.
Thank you so much, Brian, for all of these great points and lessons. We should take a deeper dive in our next video to cover some of these. These are great. Let's look at some of our adoption and usage metrics. ServiceNow Mobile Analytics, in combination with some of our Intune portal metrics, have already shown some insights on adoption and usage. The first thing that usually comes to mind is the number of downloads, but really this is just a reflection of your marketing campaign and nothing more. With mobile analytics, we're able to understand not only if people are using your apps, but how they're using the apps. Because the features that we included in our apps are intended for quick and easy actions, those micro moments that support efficiency, the time spent on our app is less than 90 seconds. And the analytics that we're seeing already support the purpose of the app. They offer a variety of other visualizations. You can see some examples here. One of them, like user path, shows you the percentage of people navigating through your app by the page itself. So we're anxious to understand more about our usage, make improvements along the way. Right now, we just need to see continued traffic on our apps. With the Agent app supporting asset management, we are seeing obvious and significant impacts, notably around time reduction. So their micro moments are things like asset receiving and asset lookup, those on-the-go updates, but most importantly, efficiencies around inventory and audit processes. So some really great results already there. As we wrap up today, I would like to thank everyone for participating and joining and listening to us today. It's been a really exciting journey for us. Many lessons learned that we are happy to share. We'd like to leave you with a few key takeaways. The first is really around your strategy. Define your strategy, build on existing channels to extend to mobile. We learned early on that not everything is a fit for mobile, especially from our support portal. We focused on high volume, simple transactions, and we'll continue to iterate over time, adding meaningful features. Consider your users, both employees and fulfillers. Identify those moments that you can enable with mobile to provide efficiency. Definitely invest in adoption. Our experience has shown that both white labeling and MAM, that MAM security, will support an increase in adoption. But you definitely need to spend some time in this area.
And your people. Spend some time building your team. Your mobile project is not going to be an app build in the sense that you're putting something new into a public app store, but rather providing a window into your processes and data. Help your team get up to speed prior to the build and allow them time to get familiar with the new concepts and terminology, and it will go a long way towards mobilizing your team. And development. Understand that there will be development challenges in both working within the design of the mobile interface and the supporting technical build. But if you take a creative approach, you can extend user experiences from your support portal and turn them into great mobile experiences.
Thank you all very much for joining today. On behalf of Brian and myself, best of luck to you on your own journey to ServiceNow Mobile.